Hey gang, Will here from the Ashland Fly Shop. Thanks so much for joining us today for our 2021 salmon fly preview. We're going to take a look at what we are seeing for the upcoming hatch. Here we go. What a better place for a salmon fly preview than up here on the beautiful Rogue River, little holy water section up here that just explodes with salmon flies. In another month, this place will just be crawling with salmon flies. So we thought, what a perfect place to do it. So let's talk a little bit about getting into it this year, what we're seeing. Obviously, here in the West, we've really struggled with precipitation this year, especially in the later part of the summer. So we've got really low flows that we're looking at, coming out of the dam now, and kind of expect it to continue to be that way, which is kind of a plus minus for the hatch. So yeah, about 800 CFS coming out of the dam. Now they will release water for spring Chinook, and usually that coincides with the hatch. So that can be somewhere around, really in just the next couple weeks, as we get into May, they'll kind of pull some flows out. And sometimes that can extend for a while, and I think when we have a bigger snowpack, we'll see those flows last longer. So what I'm sort of expecting is that we'll see those flows come up maybe to as much as 3,500, but they probably won't last long. So salmon flies are really triggered into hatching by water temperature. So I have a feeling that we'll see a little bit warmer temps a little earlier, and they will start. Water temperature obviously is going to be downstream of the source. So let's think of the source as the holy water here, where the water comes out of the dam. That's where it's going to be the coldest. So obviously it'll start lower down. So we'll see the first flies come off around the town of Shady Cove, down a little bit lower. A lot of times that even can happen before the Rogue is open on May 22nd. They'll sort of creep up, the bugs will creep up, and usually that May 22nd date opener coincides really well with salmon flies being spread out, in Shady Cove and up above, and then they'll kind of continue on for a while. So, so that's what we'll see this year, but that could be even a little bit earlier. Sometimes we'll see the hatch just barely getting going by May 22nd. I do believe that this year it'll be probably in full force by the time of the opener on the 22nd. So I would just say, be ready to go. So we really like to think of the salmon fly hatch in almost two parts. There's what happens below the hatchery, below the dam, and there's what happens above in the holy water. So we're going to kind of break it down. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening below. So this fishing from the hatchery down to Shady Cove is it can just be some of the best fishing of the year. We run a lot of guided trips for it, and it's really just run and gun, Montana style fishing out of a drift boat, casting to the banks. You're going to see most of the bugs in the trees, and it can just be a blast. You never know what you're going to catch. You could catch a late run winter steelhead, you could catch an early summer steelhead, you could catch a beautiful cutthroat trout. So just a lot of fun casting big bugs out to the trees, out to the banks. Really a lot of fun fishing, once that opener starts. So again, that fishing from the hatchery, Shady Cove, hatchery at Rogue Elk Park, Shady Cove, that is kind of the earlier fishing that we see where the salmon flies are. And like I was saying, we can see a lot of different types of fish come up for those flies in the initial part, and then it seems to peter off, and then we kind of get into almost head hunting, where we're seeing bigger fish. We're not getting as much activity, but we're seeing some of the bigger fish. So don't necessarily give up if you don't see the salmon flies on the water. Don't necessarily give up on that float. You can still turn some pretty wonderful fish when the bugs aren't necessarily out and you're not seeing a lot of fish on them. So, so that can be a really fun thing to do, in the early season. So as the hatch progresses upstream, ultimately it gets up here to what we refer to locally as the holy water section, which is above the hatchery and below the actual dams, that short little impoundment. This is where the water is coldest, and so this is where you know, we see the salmon flies the last. This is all walk and wade up here, and can be some pretty exceptional fishing. It can also be very frustrating. It has very, very many phases and cycles even within that hatch, which, you know, we call it like 2.5, 3 weeks. And I would say from the latter part of May through, you know, through about that second week of June is when we really see the bulk of that hatch and that fishing happening up here on the holy water section. Boy, you better have studs in your boots this year because of the low water that we've had and the lack of flush that's gone through the holy water section, there's a good amount of algae kind of built up on the rocks. In some places, like pretty significant amount, and it's pretty gnarly. So you definitely, this year more than any year, you want to be bringing your wading staffs and your studded boots and studded felt boots. And you know, you don't always have to really get into the holy water and wade really deep. In some spots you might want to, but we do a lot of fishing to the banks and down the banks. And so, but yeah, just be a little bit more aware of that this year. It's going to be a slippery SOB out there. So that's the story. That's what we're seeing this year. Definitely going to expect some low water. We're going to see a little bit of pulse flows as we go. But I do have a feeling we'll be fishing fairly low water, which really can be an advantage for getting around in the holy water and the upper Rogue in general. So please stay in touch with us. We're daily kind of looking at what's going on for the hatch, so we're happy to provide any up-to-the-minute information. We really hope to see you out here. I'm sorry I'm a little distracted today, but I'm definitely going to be doing some fishing here in a second. So enjoy yourself, give us a call, happy to help. See you next time.